Alright, today I'm reviewing the Ibanez S770CZM after owning it for a while. This is a follow-up review, a long-term review from my previous review of this guitar a little over a year ago. Check that out if you haven't seen it already. I have the full tone test and everything in there. In this video, I'm going to cover how this guitar has held up, the things that have been good and not so good about it, and more. And by the way, this video is not sponsored, okay? So how has this guitar held up? And let's start by talking about one of the things I really like, and it's the truss rod cover that can slide open without having to unscrew anything. I know a bunch of Ibanez guitars have them, but I really love it, especially on this one. I find myself adjusting the truss rod a whole lot. It's just a hugely convenient thing to have, to not have to unscrew anything. No way to accidentally lose any little screws. But why I appreciate this feature so much is kind of interesting. See, even though this guitar does have a roasted maple neck, I find I have to adjust this guitar more than I thought I would. I have to adjust the truss rod more than I thought I would have to. It's about on par as the non-roasted maple necks on other mid-range guitars. Maybe a bit more, actually. I just know that it has shifted with the seasons a bit more than I thought it would. Who knows, maybe I got something of a lemon here. Although the rest of the guitar has been perfectly fine. If it weren't for this, I'd probably think this guitar was super outstanding. So that's been interesting, but maybe something a bit more positive is the neck profile, the Wizard 3 neck. If you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you know I like the necks on the Prestige Ibanez and the Made in Japan Ibanez the best. And I used to really dislike the Wizard 3 neck, but it's really grown on me through the years. And this one feels especially nice. The profile feels like it's more of an oval than a thin C, for example. And unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to play an Ibanez AZ, so I can't compare it to that. But to summarize it, it feels thin and flat enough to have that Ibanez playability with the thumb behind the neck style, but it's substantial enough that you can wrap your thumb around it to dig in for some bends very nicely, very easily. If you think the Prestige necks are too thin, you might even like this more. You might prefer it. And I've found over time, when I want to play a guitar with a thicker neck, this is one of the guitars that I reach for. Nothing has dramatically failed on this guitar. The electronics work perfectly, no wires have come apart. Nothing's come loose. The only adjustments I've had to make on this guitar are purely setup based. One thing that could be better on this guitar are the fine tuners on the bridge down here. They're a bit more stubborn to turn than I would like, which is kind of annoying. They're not unusable. It's just sometimes they feel like they're kind of seizing up, but you just turn a little harder, it works just fine. But going back to the neck, and specifically inside the neck, the truss rod, I've had to adjust quite a bit. Not to the point where I've had to do it every day or every week, but a bit more frequently than I thought I'd have to do with a roasted maple neck guitar. And so the truss rod, it doesn't do nothing. It's not broken. It does adjust the neck bow if you turn it. I find I have to turn it more than I usually would expect to. Does the neck needing fairly regular adjustments count as a failure? You could say no, because after all, the guitar is made of wood. The wood will shift with the seasons, with the temperature, with the humidity. It's just a fact of life. Every guitar is going to need adjustment. You could say yes, because how much attention you have to give the guitar might be more than you'd expect. Although I would encourage you to learn how to set up your guitar. Setting up your instrument is an important skill to have. It would greatly benefit you to be able to set up your guitar to play as well as possible. And adjusting the truss rod is part of that setup. It's one of the skills you learn. Overall, I'd say a guitar with a double locking floating tremolo bridge isn't exactly beginner friendly. It's not beginner friendly. So you're gonna need to know how to set up a guitar like this, and that does include setting up the neck. Besides leveling the tremolo bridge, getting the setup right, setting the action, the intonation, all that stuff, all that good stuff. Now, of course, let's talk about the finish on this guitar. It's very interesting. Do I still like the finish? Do I like how it looks? And yes, I do. I think it's pretty cool in its own way. As I'm getting older, I do like solid color guitars more and more, but this is pretty neat. It's kind of a flat and matte finish. It's not exactly 3D looking in person, but it's interesting. It looks especially cool if you crank up the saturation, you know, in thumbnails and the like. And of course, you've probably seen earlier in this video, but it's worth noting it's on the back of the body too, and on the headstock. It's nice that they matched the headstock to the body. Let's see, other than that, the bridge is fine. The Edge 02. I've blocked the bridge with some guitar picks. It's super easily reversible. I tend to block my floating bridges if I'm not using the dive bombing the whammy part for anything. It's just for stability's sake, it's personal preference. Again, easily reversible. Not saying it's impossible to tune the guitar if the bridge was floating. You can do that just fine. It's a pretty good bridge. I did, after all, set up this guitar before I blocked it. Now, some overall thoughts. Do I think this could be an only guitar? And I think so. If you're willing to keep up with the maintenance of both the setup and the guitar itself, changing the strings, conditioning the fretboard. Every guitar needs maintenance. I don't think there is a guitar out there that requires none. The periodic adjustment of the neck to maintain your setup is something to keep in mind. Most of my guitars I have to set up twice a year with the changing of the seasons. This one has been 6 times a year. Maybe more, I haven't really been counting. Now, this guitar isn't cheap, but for the price point, I would expect a little better. So in that sense, this guitar is underperforming. And that becomes a tough sell, because when you have guitars like the RG550 Genesis that are relatively closer in price, but it's made in Japan and more solid, more stable, it becomes a little harder to justify the S770. I know the pickups on this guitar, you could say they're better. They've got the DiMarzios. And it would be fair to say you like the neck profile of this over the other one or vice versa, since they are pretty different. Generally Ibanez, I'm not saying this is round like a baseball bat, but you get the general idea. Will I keep this guitar? And that's kind of hard to say. This is a fun guitar. It's nice to pick up and play. It's not absolutely perfect, but it's not janky feeling either. It's a solid guitar with good pickups that requires maintenance every now and then. Now, of course, since I got this guitar fairly recently, they've released an S Prestige with a fixed bridge. I know they had that green one, but then this gray one came out, and this was pretty much almost everything I've always wanted in a guitar. And I bring this up because, as I mentioned in the previous video about this guitar, the S770, I had an S470 that I was using back when I was still playing live. And so having that, I wanted a Prestige Ibanez with certain specs, you know, fixed bridge, stuff like that. And I got this guitar before that gray one came out, because this was somewhat close to the guitar that I was playing live with, except it has 24 frets. And as you may or may not know, the S470 from 2006 had 22. Not saying that either is better or worse, I just wanted the extra frets. I wanted the higher fret access, all that. And so that's why I got this guitar. Normally I would say, yes, I'm going to keep this guitar because it's close to what I had before and it has the extra frets. But because that Prestige came out, now I'm not so sure. Especially because, shock and surprise, the Prestige is more stable than this guitar. But that doesn't make this guitar any less good. And I think it comes down to this. I have sold the S671 that I used to have, that chameleon green one with the Fishmans. And the reason I sold that, because whenever I'd pick it up to play it, I would then put it down. I'd be done. But this guitar, when I pick it up to play it, I keep playing it. And I think that's really the deciding factor here. Something about this guitar makes you want to keep playing it. So if you're good about maintaining the setup, this is a good guitar for practicing with, for riding with. You could record with it. You could gig it. I could see that happening. But what do you think? Do you like the features and the pickups of this guitar? Do you like the looks? Are the looks not for you personally? Be sure to comment down below. Of course, this is YouTube, so I do have to say the YouTube things. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, print out every frame and mail it. If you're looking for something cool to listen to, I'm on all major streaming services, Hazy Productions. And as always, peace.